Wendell Talley was a man of routine. A proud owner of a sprawling 2-acre farm in Shropshire, England, he spent his days tending to rows of golden wheat and vibrant green vegetables. His life was simple, predictable, and peaceful, exactly how he liked it. The only unpredictable element in his life was his 15-year-old daughter, Glo. She was his greatest helper and at times his greatest challenge. Her boundless curiosity and adventurous spirit often led her into trouble. But Wendell couldn't help but admire her determination. One Sunday morning in 2012, Glo's persistence paid off in a way neither of them could have imagined. For weeks, she had been nagging her father to help her weed the overgrown sections of the farm. Wendell, who preferred to spend his Sundays relaxing, had resisted. But that morning, Glo's relentless pleading finally wore him down. "Fine," he grumbled, setting aside his newspaper. But only for an hour. The pair spread out across the cultivated fields, the warm sun beating down on their backs. The scent of damp earth and uprooted leaves filled the air as they worked in companionable silence. Wendell couldn't help but smile at Glo's enthusiasm. She attacked the weeds with the fervor of someone twice her age, her auburn hair tied back in a messy braid. After finishing their section, Wendell headed back to the farmhouse, eager to enjoy what was left of his Sunday. But Glo was nowhere to be found. Assuming she was still checking on the animals, he thought little of it, until he couldn't find her after showering and preparing lunch. A flicker of concern sparked within him. "Glo," he called out, scanning the fields. When there was no response, his concern grew into worry. He ventured into the untouched portion of his land, a semi-forested area he rarely visited. The canopy overhead filtered the sunlight, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. Wendell's boots crunched on the underbrush as he navigated the dense foliage, his eyes roving everywhere in search of his daughter. After what felt like an eternity, Wendell stopped in his tracks. He feared he might get lost before finding Glo. Just as he turned to retrace his steps, something caught his eye. A small hole, roughly the size of a manhole, partially hidden by a tangle of overgrown bushes. As he inched closer, he realized it wasn't just a hole, but the entrance to a cave. The opening was eerily wide and inviting, sparking Wendell's curiosity. He wondered if Glo had wandered into the mysterious space, and the thought unnerved him. He was about to investigate further when a faint call pierced the air. "Dad!" Wendell turned just in time to see Glo emerging from behind a nearby tree. Relief washed over him, quickly replaced by exasperation. "Glo, where have you been?" "I was worried sick. I just stepped out for a bit," she said, brushing leaves from her jeans. "I saw you heading into the forest and followed you." Wendell sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "You'll be the death of me, girl." He gestured toward the hole. "I thought you might have wandered in there." Glo's gaze followed his pointing finger, and her expression shifted from curiosity to unease. She approached the hole cautiously. "It's just a rabbit hole, right?" "Probably," Wendell said, though he didn't believe his own words. Something about the cave hinted at a sense of foreboding, as if it held secrets better left hidden. Glo, however, was undeterred. "Let's check it out," she said. "No," Wendell said firmly, grabbing her arm. "It's not safe." He walked her back to the farmhouse, insisting that lunch would go cold. In truth, he was eager to leave the mysterious hole behind him. But Glo's curiosity lingered. The next day, she snuck back to the forest, drawn to the cave like a magnet. She crawled through the small entrance, her breath catching with each step. When she rose to her feet inside, she switched on her flashlight, casting its glow into every corner. The air was damp and cold, and the walls were rough and uneven. As she ventured deeper, she stumbled upon something breathtaking and alarming. The cave split into two paths, one lit by an eerie orange glow. Her pulse quickened as she inched closer, torn between curiosity and fear. Against her better judgment, she stepped into the lit passage. What she saw filled her with instant regret. The chamber was arranged with candles set in a deliberate, ritualistic pattern. Strange symbols were etched into the stone walls, and a makeshift altar stood at the center. For a long moment she stood frozen, certain she wasn't meant to see this, half expecting someone to step out of the shadows. The flickering candles cast shapes across the walls that made the whole chamber feel watchful, almost alive. She turned and ran, stumbling on the uneven ground, not stopping until she burst into the farmhouse. "Dad, you have to come see this." Wendell's scowl deepened. He knew exactly what she meant. Reluctantly, he followed her back to the cave, mindful of her shaken state. When they stood before the entrance, Glo hid behind him, her nails digging into his arm. Inside, Wendell took in the sight with growing unease. The candles, some still lit, cast an ominous glow. The symbols and altar hinted at something far from harmless. "This is disturbing," he muttered, his mind racing through every dark possibility. "Trespassers. Something worse. Something still happening down here." Convinced that whoever lit those candles could return, Wendell sealed the entrance with a boulder, hoping to keep his daughter and anyone else away from whatever this place really was. He and Glo returned home, their somber expressions reflecting the weight of what they'd found. Years later, by 2017, the cave had become a distant memory, though the question of what it had truly been never fully left either of them. Glo, now 20, had moved on with her life. though the experience had left an indelible mark on her. One day, she stumbled upon an article about the rediscovery of a hidden cave in Shropshire. Intrigued, she reached out to the photographer Michael Scott, who had explored the site. Over coffee, Michael revealed shocking details about the cave. It was a Templar site dating back over 700 years. The intricate stone carvings and arches were consistent with Templar architecture, and the cave had likely been used for religious purposes long before it saw candlelight again. Centuries later, it seemed, someone else had found the chamber too, drawn to its strange, sealed-off atmosphere, and had used it for rituals of their own. The very scene Glow had stumbled into as a teenager. Glow's curiosity was reignited. She convinced her father to revisit the cave, and together they explored its full extent. The underground network was vast, with walkways, arches, and chambers carved out of sandstone. The beauty of the cave was undeniable, but so was its eerie history. Wendel and Glow decided to share the cave with the world. They worked with Michael to organize tours and share the cave's story. The response was overwhelming. Archaeologists, historians, and curious visitors flocked to the site, marveling at its beauty and its mystery. For Wendel and Glow, life changed forever. The cave had brought them closer together and given them a newfound appreciation for history and adventure. As they stood at the entrance one final time, Wendel put an arm around his daughter. Who would have thought a hole in the ground could change our lives like this? Glow smiled, her eyes carrying the same curiosity that had led her into the cave all those years ago. Not me, Dad, but I'm glad it did. If you were Wendel, would you have sealed the cave or shared its secrets with the world sooner? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.